Are you looking for a way to make some extra money? Well, have you considered being a driver for Uber? Now you can make money when you want on your time. And right now, the Bunzerelly Show has teamed up with Uber to bring you a special offer. If you go to our link on the episode description, you can make a guaranteed $200 on your first 30 trips, and Uber will pay the difference if you don't make the $200.
Terms and conditions may apply. Go to uber.bunzerelly.com for more details.
Or look for the link on this episode description.
The following podcast contains spoilers for Thor Ragnarok. Do not listen to this podcast if you've not seen the movie.
I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death.
This is the Bunzerelly Show.
Coming strong out the gate with the opening weekend of $122 million, and now at the time of this recording, just crossing the $500 million mark, Thor Ragnarok, and this has been really the first strong Thor movie, in my opinion, a movie that holds its own as far as the Marvel movies. Kim, what'd you think of the movie?
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me on today. I have to admit that historically, I grew up as a DC Comics girl. I never really read the Marvel comics growing up. So most of my experience with the Marvel Universe has been through their video offerings, the TV shows and the movies.
Okay.
That said, I thought this was a great shift in tone in the Thor movies. The first two were a little dark. This one has humor infused throughout from start to finish. A lot of that, spoiler alert, there's no Natalie Portman in this movie. So the Black Swan has flown elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think she's ever done a movie that was not depressing, from her Star Wars turns, V for Vendetta, the other Boleyn girl, even Jackie, for which she's critically acclaimed. There's no disputing she's a fine actress, but really when you buy a ticket to one of her movies, they should hand you a bag of pills to take instead of 3D glasses so you're not depressed at the end.
I think Thor having a girlfriend on Earth just really kind of held him, I don't know, it kind of anchored his story, and not in a good way. I just think, you know, if a character on that level, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, the Earth girlfriend, I don't think just worked well for his story. I did like the refresh of his character. I like the cutting of the hair. I like the color tones of everything. I mean, just that character needed a shot in the arm. What I did like about the opening was, obviously, you know, the loss of the hammer, which everybody knows from the trailers anyway, and it almost had like that final battle, and we got to say goodbye to it, because that opening scene with Surtur was really like awesome. That was like the farewell tour of that hammer.
Now, did you catch who was doing the voice of Surtur in the movie?
No, you know, I didn't. I had the whole thing in front of me, but I didn't even like bother to look at that. Who was that?
The Kurgan, Clancy Brown from the legendary Highlander movie.
Okay, no, I did not catch that. That was a good character too. I liked his dynamic with Thor and that little back and forth in the beginning.
Yeah, and the haircut was definitely a good move. Of course, this is Chris Hemsworth, former People's Sexiest Man Alive. So there's not really anything you could do to him that's going to make him look bad. And they did throw in that completely gratuitous 360-degree shirtless scene.
Yeah, every time I watch Thor, I gotta hit the gym afterwards. That's the first thing I think. I'm like, I gotta hit the gym.
Did you catch the other cameo from another famous actor who just happens to be a buddy of Hemsworth?
The Matt Damon, right? In the beginning?
Matt Damon. It took me a minute when they were doing the play celebrating the great Loki and how he saved everybody with his untimely demise. Sam Neill from Jurassic Park, Matt Damon.
Okay, I didn't catch who was playing Thor. I was trying to make him out. Yeah, but yeah, Matt Damon was funny. I like how Matt Damon, he'll go from, winning Oscars, but he won't take himself too seriously to, he'll make fun of himself like he does on,
with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, I love his stuff with Jimmy Kimmel, and it's just he doesn't take himself too seriously, and that's always refreshing with, actors like that of that caliber. I did like that they kind of covered that Loki stuff in the beginning, because when I was watching the trailers and you kind of see Loki's part and everything, I'm like, okay, well, Loki's supposed to be Odin now. So where do they fix this? And they kind of nipped that in the bud right in the beginning. And what also was cool was like the pacing of the movie, because the movie never kind of slowed down and hit the brakes. You just kind of went into it and you go, and it flows naturally, because they go right into that Doctor Strange cameo, because I was curious how they're going to fit that in. And you had that scene where right away they're right with Odin and everything. And I think it was touching, the dynamic with, what's shown in facial expressions is like, when Loki and Thor confront Odin, they find him. And it's like you see that little like discomfort in Loki, but he still has that, love that is like that awkward. You could tell a lot from his facial expressions what Loki was thinking.
This was a great way for the new director, Taika Waititi, to bring new viewers into the series with that play doing the backstory. It tells you a little bit about what happened to Loki, and it sets him up as the arrogant, self-entitled character that he proves to be throughout the film. So that was a great little backstory. And again, I did like the cameo, Matt Damon, Sam Neill, and even another Hemsworth brother playing the actor that's playing Thor.
Okay, that was Hemsworth. Okay.
I had Sam Neill playing Odin.
Okay, Odin. I couldn't make out Odin and Thor because of the beards and the makeup and everything. Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely quite the family resemblance in that line.
So right away, we're brought into Hela, like the foreshadowing of her and her like as soon as Odin dies or dissipates, I'm assuming he's dead, but Hela just comes in swinging. And the one thing they left out of the trailers was her relationship and her whole background with being Odin's daughter, and that confrontation just went down real quick. And obviously we've been following this weird dynamic with him and Thor for a long time, but he's got that half his desire to survive and also perhaps a little caring for his brother, but he's like, we are not ready for this fight. And he just dragged Thor out of there real quick. As soon as that hammer broke, he's like, we are way out of our league. We're not ready for this.
Right. And you can tell, again, with the acting and the facial expressions, the Thor character immediately realizes by saving your own skin and trying to get us out of here, you've just opened up the easy path for her to get to our home planet.
Yeah, he basically just like sent her over to Asgard.
I thought they had a great introduction to Carl Urban in the movie, Dr. McCoy. I was a little disappointed to see his demise at the end. I was hoping he might be a recurring character since he redeemed himself. I know one of my friends is terribly disappointed because she likes to refer to him as her next ex-husband.
Of course, the part we're all waiting for is the Hulk. Now, the Hulk's had a real funny story as far as his cinematic history. I mean, he just, 2 tries out the door with the solo movies and kind of finally found his footing in Avengers. And I think a lot of it is because, I don't know, I'm toying with it, but I think Hulk, I don't know if he's necessarily strong enough to carry his own movie. Because, you have that solo Hulk movie. The first 2 are the same thing. He's just going to throw tanks around. I don't know. I like him better as part of an ensemble and part of the story. But in this movie, like this outer space stuff, this was an awesome element for Hulk. And, of course, they've touched upon it in the comics and everything. And it was just great seeing him. It was great, the action with him. I didn't realize how much of his personality would have manifested until he started talking. I like this version of the Hulk, how his personality kind of develops a little bit.
Right. It's a great dichotomy between Banner, Mark Ruffalo, and the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo. They do a really good job playing up the vulnerability and the sensitivity, the confusion of the Banner character. What do you mean I'm on another planet?
I like when during the fight when Thor tries that the Black Widow move and he goes, the sun's getting pretty low, big guy. And he's just the way Thor kind of the Hulk kind of hesitates and it's just it just doesn't work. It was epic fail. It was great. And of course Loki's reaction to seeing the Hulk.
Yeah, that was great. The reaction between seeing Hela come out and then he sees the Hulk, and in both cases Loki's like, I am out of here.
Yeah.
But personally, as a woman living in Florida, what I liked best about Gila, I want that great ability to just run my hands over my antlers and have it immediately go to perfectly straight hair.
Oh, Kate Blanchett was awesome. That character was just her thirst for power and just the whole thing behind her. Everything about her was great because really, Loki was the villain in the first Thor, and then, the second Thor, it was like the Dark Elves or something. It was almost forgettable. I think it was Malkolith, and really, you're watching Thor 2 to just see the dynamic between Thor and Loki again. But this one was great because Loki took a back seat, not story-wise, but he wasn't really the villain, but he was still kind of himself, and he was acting naturally as Loki. I mean, he still betrays Thor during the movie. You still don't know where he's going and everything, but by default, Loki still is Asgardian, and it still is his home. And at the end is where he makes that turn.
He has his little bit of redemption.
It was a little bit of redemption, but it wasn't too much. And we'll jump ahead later to Infinity War. I have my clues to where his true redemption is going to be if it happens.
Well, you see a bit of the tie-in to the Infinity War as he's going to revive Surtur. Mm-hmm. And he goes by the Tesseract. So he picked up the Tesseract.
Oh, without a doubt.
The Tesseract didn't go down in flames with Asgard.
A question about that as well, because I'm curious. Well, we might as well go into Infinity War, too, because a lot of that, the way the movie kind of wraps up, it ties into Infinity War. So first of all, he has the Tesseract. The mid-credits roll scene, they're confronted by the spaceship at the end, where Loki's like, well, what could go wrong? And It's, obvious. I'm pretty sure, I'd say like 98% sure it's Thanos' ship. I have a couple questions, and one of them is the Asgardians themselves, that Asgardian people, because I'd always assumed, like when, Thor obviously could take blows from the Hulk. So what I'm curious is the Asgardian people actually as strong as Thor? Even though they're not all warriors, it's like a warrior planet. So I'm kind of curious, like, are they going to come into play into Infinity War? The other thing is Hulk is on that ship. So Hulk is going to be a big player into Infinity War, and it's going to be curious to see, we saw how in Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, how Hulk could easily be, turned in one direction or another. Like when the Scarlet Witch, like, got at Banner's mind, you kind of brought that first glimpses of the Savage Hulk. And I'm kind of curious the ramifications of what's going to happen with Hulk as far as Infinity War.
It's an interesting question. In this movie, for example, we were introduced to the Valkyrie, the legendary all-female fighting force of the Asgardians. Mm-hmm. Then you have the royal line, which you have your goddess of death, your god of thunder. Mm-hmm. So are the more advanced capabilities limited only to certain parts of the Asgardian, or do they all have that immense strength, a sort of immortality, but perhaps they're not trained in it? That said, it didn't look like Heimdall rescued a lot of them. How many people were actually in the Asgardian city?
Yeah, it did not seem like a lot of people.
It was nice to see the expanded role for Heimdall. Mm-hmm. Idris Elba is always impressive in his acting. So I was glad to see he had a slightly expanded role. I'm not sure if he's going to have a bigger role in the Infinity War. And that's what's going to be interesting about Infinity War. When you bring together all of these character arcs, all of these movies, how much screen time are each of these actors, these characters going to get? Are their agents just having total knockdown, drag-out brawls fighting over screen time? Is the movie going to be 6 hours long? I'm not sure how they're going to make everybody happy on that.
I've kind of had it in my head and kind of like made a decision a while that like 3-hour movies are just, I don't know, far and few are worth the 3 hours. It just seems like, because you have that like audience fatigue happening. If you could move the thing at a fast pace, but the original plan with Infinity War was to be, I think, like a 2-parter, kind of like that last Harry Potter movie. And I don't know, I was kind of a little iffy about that. But I think a 3-hour movie for this amount of cast of characters, if you have different people in different directions, if you have like Thor and the Guardians coming from one end, I mean, a little was shown. There was some leaked Infinity War footage, which, by the way, I'm kind of surprised that Marvel hasn't officially released that footage, because usually when trailer footage gets leaked, they release the professional version. That way it keeps the integrity of the product. So you're not just having like a cell phone version of that. But anyway, it's like, from what I've gathered from that footage, is you got the Guardians and Thor coming from one end, and then you got like, Iron Man and Spider-Man together on another end. So if you could keep like 3 or 4 stories kind of weaving and just keep it moving fast the same way as Ragnarok.
It's a great point, and Ragnarok was not a short movie. It was over 2 hours.
Okay.
But pace was excellent. It moved quickly. It was infused with a lot of humor, action. So you didn't really feel like you were in there for over 2 hours in Ragnarok.
That's how these Marvel movies got to be. You can't, you got to do these origin stories to establish the character. But once these characters are established, just take the ball and run with it. And it was the cool thing about Infinity War is going to be the Russo brothers handling it. They had a big success with the second Captain America. A lot of people throw it to Civil War, but even Winter Soldier was the start of like, that was kind of Captain America's Ragnarok, where he finally just like was able to hold his own instead of just being like a Captain America movie until the next Avengers movie. You can't have these filler movies anymore, because people are going to get wise to it. Every movie's got to be strong. And the Russo brothers did such a great job with that and Civil War. So when Joss Whedon, when he dropped out of Avengers, they right away brought the Russo brothers in, because it just is a strong job with Civil War. They could obviously handle, well, that was kind of like a practice run, a small-scale version of what they're going to do in Infinity War. But it definitely made it work.
It did. I was very impressed with the whole Captain America trilogy so far. So what they'll have to avoid, though, with Infinity War is what we talked about that they did with Ragnarok. They did the quick rehash of some of the backstory. Mm-hmm. They're not going to have time for that with all these characters in Infinity War. They're not going to be able to give you a Guardians of the Galaxy rehash and an Underoos rehash and a Iron Man rehash. So they're going to have to get right into it with Infinity War.
Yeah.
And that could be tough to bring new folks into the series.
Yeah, it's almost like the backstory has to be more of like the actual Infinity gems and like Thanos, I guess the start and end of the movie, like what the focus is going to be. Because what character do you kind of zero in on? I do have a theory. I brought this up before, but I think Loki, like we said about Loki's redemption, because I believe Loki's going to present that gem to Thanos, because that's what Avengers, where he started with Avengers. And especially since Asgard's gone and he's got really nothing else to turn to. But Loki is the one that could catch Thanos off guard. So is Loki, if there is a chance for Loki's redemption, that is the shot, I believe. But I'm not sure.
I'm just waiting for them to cast Taylor Swift as his love interest.
That'd be great.
One thing that I was a little disappointed in was that we didn't have more Jeff Goldblum.
He was fantastic.
Jeff had very little screen time, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. We talked about Matt Damon's cameo, but Jeff was almost a cameo. There was the second end credit scene that gave him a little bit more time, but that scene was not very impressive, in my opinion. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't have more screen time for the Grand Master.
I was like completely pleased at like that character. That was like really funny and just great. Just his like his eccentricities and everything. He was really cool. I hope we see him again. That was, even like a little bit part here and there, like just a little like surprise thing. But yeah, he was awesome.
I do think that might have been the best Stan Lee cameo as the barber, though.
Yeah, every time, you just go in there forgetting the Stan Lee cameo is going to happen, and then he does it. You're like, yes, that was hilarious. And it's like, what do you have, that cybernetic arm or something? That was great. A lot of cool stuff. Definitely a strong Thor movie we've been waiting for, and definitely looking forward to. Marvel keeps its pace. We definitely have a lot of good stuff to look forward to. So, Kim, thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on the call today, Joe. I really enjoyed talking about the movies with you. I think after getting my Chris Hemsworth fix yesterday, I just picked up a digital copy of the Ghostbusters remake. So I think I'll spend the afternoon watching that.